All right, early age Ermor, and I actually have turn one this time, so we get the starting messages. There was chaos, but yeah, now there's going to be chaos again shortly. So yeah, turn one not particularly interesting. We do get to see where we spawned, very far away from any coast, which fills me with joy. And like, yeah, a pretty good start location, really. Like, a lot of connections for our capital. Like, really, like, can't complain. This is possibly my best full house start. Yeah, I don't know. The Ulm one was arguable. We have like pretty good north-south access in terms of like plains, right? So probably going to be focused, kind of on like this river valley, if you will. And like kind of north and south, because we're gonna have good movement along that path. East and west, there's this massive forest here that's really gonna slow us down. These farmlands look pretty nice and juicy. Yeah, to our east here, like we got this cave and forest and more cave and a swamp and a throne. So we're a little hemmed in, movement-wise to our west and to our east, but, good movement paths, north and south. Decent throne access, right? I mean, we're like 2 away from this throne, 2 away from this throne, not too far away from this throne. This is a little far, but, I mean, like, yeah, from that point, like, we'll see. But, we actually have some throne access close to us, which is cool. So yeah, can't argue with this start position. We're gonna go ahead and prophetize our first commander. I feel like there's really no reason to wait with early age Ermor, and I like the extra dominion push early because when there's no candles out there, it's easier to spread your dominion. So if you want to spread your dominion, getting your prophet out as early as possible is really nice. And then recruitment-wise, just going to add some Hastati to our starting army, and then getting some assassins to try to cut down on costs. In a lot of previous playthroughs, I started recruiting mages right away. I'm going to try to move away from that and, try to keep the cost down somewhat. That said, assassins aren't super cheap, so not keeping the cost down too much, but yeah, definitely, I mean, cheaper than recruiting our good mages, only a little cheaper than recruiting augurs. In fact, actually more expensive than recruiting augurs because we can get 2 assassins at once. So yeah, ignore me. I am spending a ton of money early on and will probably struggle to get infrastructure up. So yeah, but we'll see. Assassin expansion, it can be a little wonky, but it'll be interesting to see how it goes. In terms of, yeah, this is Ermor's starting army. You just got some Hastati and some leves to start with. Usually you just kind of throw them all in like one group, have them move forward in a line, throw their javelins, and yeah, they do pretty well. So yeah, that's turn 1. All right, EA Ermor, turn 2. Proof that this is a big game. A lot of profits going up. We'll probably see a few more in the turns to come. Otherwise, no messages, no events. That's good news with misfortune. So yeah, sending our initial army out. We can see our indie types surrounding our capital now. Nothing too scary. We do have some Hoburg here, just militias who are really easy to clean up. So we're going after them first. Also, this is probably a valuable province. It is going to be reduced somewhat because it's also mountains, which cuts into like the income. Normally farms tend to be pretty valuable. But these guys can provide us with some nature access, assuming that we can recruit mages from here, which you usually can from Hoburg provinces, maybe always, not 100% sure on that. But yeah, so, and it'll be an easy fight, so, we'll be able to continue expanding. Otherwise, like, yeah, pretty easy, fights here, nothing too exciting. We got some undead, so this province is probably worthless and, lower priority. One thing is, it would be nice to pick up a forest for, like, the additional resources. Although, with mountains here, this might actually have decent resources, but yeah, because we are resource constrained right now, our recruitment is switching over to our sacreds, right? So we're getting our Equite of the Sacred Shroud, and we're getting a bishop who's going to be leading them. And yeah, we're sending our assassins down here. They might start assassinating here. I can't remember offhand. With 60, like this is a lot. We'll see how the scouting report fluctuates. If this fluctuates up, assassins do pretty well against regular commanders and like mounted commanders. So, a province with like, I mean, these guys aren't very tough independents, but, you know, I mean, if there's like 80 or 90 of them, I mean, that's still something you got to respect, unless you have assassins and you just assassinate all their leaders. So yeah, we'll see. They may, you know, cruise around and look for an even better target, because, you know, if the next scouting report is something like, you know, 30 enemy units or 40 enemy units, it may not be worth like wasting our assassins' time. You know, our Equite can clean that up pretty easily. You know, otherwise, like, yeah, just sending our scout down. Like I said, we're going to kind of focus on like this north-south axis, and, you know, definitely interested in these two farmland provinces, especially with this being, you know, a dead province. Like, yeah, probably going to focus our expansion like more southward. So we'll see, because yeah, the throne does block us up here somewhat. One other thing to note, and there's a little bit of death here, so it's probably a site, hopefully not a well of pestilence, but, you know, we do want death gems, so this is kind of good news for us, but, you know, well of pestilence is always a little annoying because it diseases your guys, and especially if it's like right in your cap circle, it just makes moving in this direction more difficult. You know, you have to go around it. So anyway, just something to note. But yeah, let's see. Yeah, we don't have any mages yet, so no research to speak of. And yeah, that's turn 2. All right, EA Ermor, turn 3. We had, you know, a late prophet from Abyssia, and then we had a battle in Land of Plenty, and, you know, it's just our legionaries slaughtering Hoberg militia quite handily. I don't think we really need to watch this. I mean, I guess we can. We'll take a fast look. It's pretty basic. You know, like I said, you kind of just put everything in a line. The levies are a little faster, so they do kind of get out in front, but because everybody throws javelins, it's not too much of an issue, and the speed difference is like quite slight. So anyway, yeah, they slaughter the Hoberg. Pretty much everything slaughters Hoberg militia. So, you know, but no casualties. That's always a good, you know, a good sign, a good situation. Unfortunately, you know, I mean, this is just the nature of Full House, right? Even though it's a large map with, you know, all factions, there are fewer provinces than normal per player, so it's pretty tight. And, you know, here we are. We got 2 flags showing up on turn 3, so, you know, that is sad. I end up getting in touch with both of these players, and I think Micklin and I signed a non-aggression pact like pretty quickly. I think, you know, his capital, I think he tells me it's somewhere maybe here or here, possibly here. We are pretty close, I do remember that. But, you know, he wasn't really interested in expanding out this way. I wasn't really interested in like getting into this cave system. You know, it's like I said, like I was saying, I was going to focus more like, you know, kind of north-south here. So, you know, we were able to agree, you know, to kind of pretty natural borders pretty easily. So yeah, this ends up, you know, being fairly friendly, and I don't think I'd gotten back to the Arcos of Folly player yet. Not sure offhand where their capital is yet. So yeah, we're just moving down. Like I said, you know, the dead province is, you know, kind of less of a priority, and it is in our cap circle. So, you know, if somebody does move in there, we can kind of just tell them off and be like, hey, you know, it's going to be war if you don't get out of here, and it's probably not worth war, you know, for most people, unless they're looking to rush us, and, you know, then that's a whole different ball game. So yeah, this is another really easy province, like mostly militia and archers, a few heavy infantry. Our Romans are going to have no problem with that. Our prophet did pick up a lion pelt, which is kind of cool. So, you know, Hoberg randomly had an item. And then let's see, we are going to start assassinating here. And yeah, you know, 50, like, so the scout report is down from last turn. You know, probably our Equite could deal with this, but other than this province here, you know, this is kind of like the most that we've seen. Like, all these scout reports are like way down. These are really easy provinces to be taking. So, you know, and I mean, with one of the problems with Assassin expansion, in addition to being kind of inconsistent, because, you know, just sometimes you can never really tell, like, if they're unkitted, if they're going to win battles against indie commanders. You know, it's like usually they beat commanders, but not always. The other thing is it's fairly slow, right? Because, you know, you have to, I think we're getting more, yeah, we're getting more assassins this turn, which, yeah, like, isn't super cheap. So, yeah, I don't know if I'd do this again, but, you know, hey, we're getting to see some assassin expansion. It is interesting. But yeah, it's fairly slow, so I think on a tighter map like this, it's actually probably worse than normal, because you have to assassinate all the commanders, and it's luck of the draw, you know, but, like, you can usually like usually there's at least 2 commanders, sometimes like up to like 4 or 5. I mean 5 is really rare, but 4 is not uncommon, and like 3 is very common. So I mean, you know, with just 2 assassins, like you're looking at like at least 2 turns of assassination. Well, I don't know about at least, but probably at least, because it's like if both of these assassinations are successful, there's a good chance there's going to be a 3rd commander, so you might as well just have both assassinate. You know, if you're ballsy, you assassinate with one and then attack with the other. The deal is if the Indies have no commanders left, they just run off to anything. So like usually you can capture it with like a scout, or like use one of your assassins to capture it, you know, essentially for free. But of course, you know, if somebody else moves into it while you're doing this, then they get it for free, you know, assuming you've assassinated everything. So, you know, you could, after a successful round of, you know, 2 assassinations, you could try assassinating once, because the assassinations happen before regular battles. So assuming that there's only 3 commanders and your assassination is successful, and, you know, the previous turn you had 2 successful assassinations, you could pick up a province in 2 turns via assassins. But like I'm a little more cautious, so I tend to go like 2 rounds of assassination with only 2 assassins. And then maybe split and have one assassinate just in case there's an extra commander, and then like attack with the other one. So you're kind of looking at like 3 turns to pick up a province. Anyway, it's pretty slow. Obviously with more assassins you can make that go faster, so we're bringing in more assassins. Yeah, we'll see. And then bringing in lots of Equite, the Sacred Shroud. It looks like we did get a good amount of resources off of this. You know, I mean, 26 left is not much, but we're clearly pulling in a lot more since we're able to. We're pretty much constrained by, well, okay, I mean, we don't have any resources left either, but we've used up all of our holy points, so even if we had more resources, we couldn't actually get more Equite this turn. So yeah, we'll definitely send this guy out. We'll probably use this Hastati as a bodyguard. Maybe would have preferred to get, oh yeah, we didn't have enough resources, so yeah, just kind of rounding it out with a few gladiators. It is nice to throw some bodyguards on these guys. Bodyguards with shields I think are better. I'll have to double check, but I think if you have units with shields in the same square, that's just going to help your commander out in terms of getting hit with arrows. But just if you can have like some bodyguards, you know, I mean, these guys are just real squishy. Some bodyguards is nice. So yeah, hopefully gonna throw these gladiators and, you know, that Hastati, that lone Hastati on as a bodyguard for this guy, because that's definitely one of the ways you can lose. Well, I mean, really any sacred expansion group that has like a really squishy commander, but certainly in my experience I've lost you know, Ermorian expansion groups that way. And yeah, just kind of cruising around still with our scout. Still no research, doing a little preaching. Yeah, we can actually raise the level here, so yeah, it's not a wasted turn. That's always nice. And I think that covers turn 3. Alright, Early Age Ermor, turn 4. A couple more late prophets going up. And then yeah, we had some assassination attempts. We'll take a look at some of these. Not that they're going to be particularly interesting, but you know, yeah, the start of the game, and yeah, you know, that went pretty well. Their skills are decent, you know, better than, I mean, this guy's skills, like, yeah, he's super messed up now, so actually, well, he's routing, so he gets, yeah, a malice to these skills. But yeah, I mean, these guys are probably like the lamest commanders, more or less, that you can run into, barring maybe a priest. So, you know, but, you know, hey, against a really lame commander, human assassins generally do just fine. And hey, speaking of lame commanders, we'll see how this one goes. Fingers crossed. Not quite as successful off the bat, but yeah, once we got one hit, broke his morale, and yeah, so these are both successful. That's good. That's what we like to see. And then we had a battle in Bycliff here, which should be pretty easy. We can just speed through this. Yeah, this is pretty lame. So yeah, throwing the javelins, getting our prophet doing his holy damage spell. We don't really care about arrows because of our nice big old shields. The leves, to a lesser extent, you know, their shields aren't quite as good, and they really do lack in protection. So the arrows are a little more dangerous for them, which is why I like to add Hastati to the first, you know, starting army. It does matter somewhat on your scales. Like if you have kind of bad scales, then you know you might be stuck adding leves, and you certainly can recruit more leves. So there's an argument for that. But yeah, you can see like we lose 1 leve. So yeah, Hastati, they definitely will carry you farther. So if you can, I would recommend recruiting them for the starting army. But yeah, this is a really easy province, so that's pretty good. And then yeah, children disappearing at night, some unrest. You know, it's we bring misfortune. We bring legionaries and misfortune. So you know, welcome to the Ermorian Empire. And yeah, we're doing some more assassination, and then we're gonna, I think, sneak in our other assassin and then attempt to capture with our other assassin, because obviously like Arcocephaly is right here, so you know, this is a little risky, right? These assassinations may not work out, but obviously we've had 2 successful assassinations. There may not be any more commanders there. So yeah, man, you know, with 2 more assassin attempts, probably will be fine. Ideally, you do the capturing like with a scout and not with an assassin, so like they could, you know, move on and do other things. But yeah, I mean, since I'm being a little cautious anyway, like, and then this way all of our assassins, all 4, will be stacked up in the same province and they can move somewhere else. Yeah, you know, I'm fine with that. And then yeah, we're rolling out with our first Equite of the Sacred Shroud. We're gonna send them this way into the woods. You know, yeah, so we did get some bodyguards on them, only 2, because the leadership here is only 10, so, and you know, I prefer having, like, 8 is a good number. I feel like you can definitely get away with a lot less, and I do think this bless is good enough. You know, we could probably do 6. I mean, shoot, for a lot of these provinces, we could probably do 4, you know, and like this, we could get away with 4. And you know, maybe there's an argument to be said for 4. I'm not sure if I actually noticed these death scales yet, but anyway, we may get diseased up here. But I prefer larger expansion parties, just because they have, like, they just carry you farther and they tend to take a less attrition. It is slower, and you know, in this tighter map, I think it may have been the wrong call, because you know, it's like you just, with the smaller map, you want to expand like that much more quickly. And there's definitely something to be said for if you can push out an expansion party per turn, like that's where you want to be. And to get expansion parties of this size, I'm every other turn. So that is definitely a downside, but like I said, I do kind of prefer having like the larger. This is also nice if you bump, right? Like it's a small map, so you know, you could definitely bump. So I don't know. You can argue back and forth, but we're going with a larger group. We're sending them against this. They should absolutely crush it. Hopefully our assassins will take this, and then, you know, this is another really easy province. Our Romans should have no trouble with that. And yeah, let's see. Some co-oni on this throne. This isn't looking super heavily defended, although this is all level 2 thrones, I believe. Yeah. So there will be some mages on here, and even though it doesn't say anything about mages, so you know, we don't want to slam into this too soon, but this is definitely looking takeable, right? This is not super scary. You know, Coney or can be nasty, but yeah, it doesn't even look like that many. And then, you know, of course, continuing to, you know, pump out Equite and, you know, a few bodyguards and then another commander for the next group. May send this one out like a little light. I think we'll end up with like 6 or 7, but that's enough, and you know, we need to get rolling. So yeah, haven't encountered anyone else. So yeah, looking like, you know, there's a good amount of room to expand down to the south here. We'll see about, you know, expanding out in this direction. But yeah, so far so good, and that is turn 4. All right, EA Ermor, turn 5. We have the coveted triple expand here, so let's see if it works out. It is looking good because we did not find any enemy commanders to assassinate. So yeah, this is good news because we are sending an assassin in to do battle with the remains. This is our first sacred expansion party, and it is up against not too much. And it's good news because there were some slingers here, but there are very, very few slingers. That is one thing. You know, because our commander is so squishy, ranged units are a little scarier than normal. Not for our Equite, as you can see, like they just absolutely rip things apart, at least independents. So yeah, they have no trouble with this, and they don't care about slingers, but our dude in robes leading this whole expedition, yeah, he doesn't love taking slings to anywhere, but you know, of course, you know, it's always the head, it's always a critical, and they just die immediately, you know, yeah. So very happy there weren't a lot of slingers there. And then this is our brave assassin going in, and then here's the cowardly independents who have no commanders left and are retreating in disarray. So yeah, this is how assassin expansion works, and you know, that one worked out pretty well. You know, that was definitely a province we could have taken with our regular forces, so yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how much we gained, but you know, I mean, it is a province that we were able to take this turn that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to, you know. So it did allow for the triple expand, and let's see if our legionaries did as well as everybody else. Yeah, they're up against, again, a pretty lame force of independents here. We're getting pretty lucky in terms of the difficulty of the independents that we're having to go up against, you know, in our immediate vicinity. Although that said, you know, we're not getting any cool like Amazons or anything like that. And we did get Hoburg, so you know, we do have nature covered, so can't really complain about, you know, independent variety. And you know, we've been getting pretty good independence, so yeah, overall, like, pretty good luck. Yeah, other than, you know, some misfortune in Ermor, but it's fine. We'll get some fortune tellers up shortly, and I'm sure nothing will happen from, you know, these yeah, I don't know, snakes and rabbits crossing people's paths. It's fine. That is silly superstition. We'll tell the future. And then yeah, we have healers, so you know, we cure afflictions. So yeah, that went really well. In terms of recruitment, we are getting our first mage and augur. So you know, he's nice and cheap, and you know, continuing our sacred recruitment. You know, rounding it out with a few gladiators. You know, leve. You know, yeah, looking for more bodyguards, and we're actually combining our, you know, new sacred group. Yeah, there's only 6 of them here. You know, with our initial army. Not because, you know, we need it to take out this 30 militia and heavy infantry. That's going to be no problem whatsoever. But yeah, I'd been in touch, you know, with the Arcocephali player a bit, back and forth, you know, trying to establish borders. And, you know, yeah, we weren't really able to come to an agreement. You know, I was saying like, well, I definitely need this province, you know, because it's part of my cap circle. Also death scales, so we could be sitting on a lot of death gems here, which would be nice. But yeah, so it's like, I need this province, but I'm like, otherwise, you know, we could, you know, use the river, right, as a border. And he was not interested in that. I believe his exact response was, I can fly, which is true. His sacreds are pretty good. Speaking of death scales, more death scales here. But yeah, early age Arcocephali's sacreds are pretty good, and they can fly. So yeah, he decided to jump pretty deep. This is kind of a bizarre expansion choice, and very, very aggressive, because he doesn't get to draw income like from this province, and it's kind of dangerous too. Had he lost this battle, you know, all of his units would have died, having no retreat routes. So I mean, I guess it's possible he has some of these provinces down here, but I really, really doubt it, you know, because this is where his flag showed up first, so presumably his capital is somewhere over here. So I mean, you know, not getting to draw income out, like, this is not like a great idea, I think, in general. When expanding, like, you usually want to expand contiguously, you know, even if you do have the ability to jump provinces. Now, I mean, that said, if you're interested in, say, blocking someone else's expansion, then maybe that's a reason to do this, although still risky, and, you know, you still do lose out, you know, on income and maybe resources for, you know, your capital or any forts that you may have gotten up, although it's pretty early to have a fort up. But anyway, yeah, this definitely irked me. And you know, in a game, in a full house game, you need an early war, and it looks like our first opponent just revealed himself. So I think, you know, fighting Arcocephali is perfectly fine. You know, they're also a human nation. You know, Wind Riders, their sacreds are good, but they're not crazy good. You know, so I mean, certainly our sacred cav could stack up to them. You know, it really depends on the bless situation. But yeah, I got in touch with Abyssia, and he agreed to let me have this lizard province, which was really nice. And we made some discussions about jointly attacking Arcocephali. So yeah, that relations seem to be good with Abysia, and like I said, we're pretty good with Mictlan, so that's good news. Of our 3 neighbors that we found so far, 2 of them are friendly, and 1 of them is hostile, which works out. You do need somebody to attack. You do need a first war. And then yeah, we saw this throne here. This is a lot of units. The vine men and the boars don't really matter, but I'm not going to try to pronounce these. But these guys are undead, and I think at least some of them are ethereal. So they can be a little tricky to go after. But we do have magic weapons on our bless, right? Yep. So yeah, so not so much of an issue for our equite, once we get up there. But yeah, so we're moving in to grab these, lizards. Lizard shamans are really good. They're good for almost everybody, maybe even extra good for Ermor, because, they can, with astral and nature, they can join our communions, and we do not normally have nature in our communions. We can do a little bit of wiggling with our summons to get it in there, but lizards are going to support nature communions much better. So yeah, this is a great independent for us to find, and is usually a really good independent for us to find. So yeah, we're sending our other group in there and then combining these groups up here, because it looks like we're probably going to be tangling with Arcocephali sooner rather than later. Maybe going to try to engineer a bump. Kind of splitting our assassins out. Yeah, so it looks like our assassins are going into just scout mode here, because with Arcocephali, like as hostile as they are and as active as they are over here, we're realistically not going to have time to just sit and assassinate a bunch of commanders. So, we're just going to use them as scouts. And again, like I said, I think if this were a more normal game with more provinces per player, you'd probably be able to nab 2 or maybe 3 provinces, like with your assassins, with the right luck and choosing the right provinces. So yeah, I think they kind of underperformed. Only grabbing like 1 province is not fantastic for how much money we put into them. But I mean, now we do have a stack of 4 assassins, and Arcocephali is just a human nation. They have human mages. We can absolutely assassinate those guys early on. So, not the worst thing to have available. And, we didn't have a whole lot else to be recruiting early on. But yeah, like I said, we are switching over to the mage recruitment. One thing to consider anytime you have misfortune, and, now we're up to misfortune 3 because of events on our capital. One of the events that can happen is like a fire burns down your lab, or like an earthquake destroys your temple. And if you have no mage, right, you can't rebuild it. So you don't want to wait too many turns before you get your first mage and probably your first priest as well. Now, once your pretender comes in, they can definitely build labs, and I think they can build temples. I'll have to double check that. And our pretender is only dormant, so it wouldn't be the end of the game for us if that happened. But anyway, anytime you're running misfortune, you don't want to have no priests or no mages, because you never know when you're going to lose your only infrastructure. So anyway, definitely glad to be getting our first mage up, and we'll get a little recruitment in, and then yeah, we have our first indie commander, and we're looking to build a fort here, because we're going to want these Hoburg horticulturalists, who are going to provide us nature access, and they have a chance, not a great chance, but a chance at either water or earth, which are also both paths that we don't really have. So yeah, this is a really nice independent type for us to pick up, and they're stealthy too, which is kind of cool. So yeah, hopefully going to be starting a fort here next turn. I'm not fantastic at infrastructure. Honestly, if I can just get my forts up on time this game, the rest of it is just gravy. So yeah, really hoping to get the fort up next turn. Doing some scouting, gonna hopefully double expand, and yeah, we also found Agartha's capital. So we are going to be somewhat constrained in our southern expansion, regardless of what happens with Arcocephali here. And yeah, I think that covers turn 5.